Hi, we have been looking at some programming concept, and the last major programming concept is the iteration. Why iteration? Not many problems are solvable using only straight line and conditional execution. Um, we need to have some other control structure that such that we can repeat some code over and over again until the problem is solved. For example, if I want to calculate everybody average grade over say 20 students, each student has say 20 different grade. I need to iterate all the grade to calculate the average, and then I need to do that for every student. These are repetitive work. So iteration you use in case you have some code that you need to repeat. Iteration, also known as repetition, is just re, um, repeat execution of some sequence of statement. In Python, there's only two types of iteration or looping structure. There's a for loop, which iterate over a list of item, a list of like a sequence item, like list, string, or dictionary, and a while loop, which provide more general mechanism for iteration. Every loop has four parts. To to um, to start the loop, you need to initialize. Initialization set up the loop, for example, like a loop control variable, so that you can begin the loop. And then you check the condition. A condition is a Boolean expression that controls whether or not the loop execute again. So if the condition is true, it will execute. Sorry. If the condition is true, it will execute the body and update, and then you go back to condition again. This is where the loop comes from. If the condition is true, this is where the loop comes from. For example, if counter less than num is a condition. As long as this condition is true, the loop continue. And the loop should continue until the condition is false. That's how you get out the loop. If the condition never becomes true false, then you have an infinite loop. Body is the statement that need to be repeated execute in order to solve the given problem. For example, sum plus equal to counter. This is like doing summation. Update a change to one of the condition variables such that it make progress toward the condition becoming false. You want to update the condition variable, and eventually the condition, when you check the condition will become false, and that's how you get out of the loop. And if you forget to update the loop control variable, an infinite loop may result. And this is one of the very common errors that students make. Again, four parts of every loop: initialization, condition, body, and update. Again, this is your loop. These are the code get repeated, and as long as the condition is true, these get repeated. If the condition is false, that's when you exit the loop. In a for loop, it processes each item in the list, and each item in turn is reassigned to the loop variable, and the body of the loop is executed. For example, I have a for loop here for num in 0, 1, 2, and 3. What this really means here is first time through num would be equal to 0. So initialization would be num equal to 0, equal to the first. And the condition is, do I have any more item in the list? Yes, then I continue. I print num, you print 0, and then num equal to 1, and then num equal to 2, and then num equal to 3. And once I get to 3, which print out the 3, any more item in the list, there's no more, and the loop terminates. And notice that there's a colon at the end of the for loop. And remember, whenever there's a colon, you will see the code get indented over. This is the start of the body of the loop. So for this loop here, you will see 0, 1, 2, and 3 get printed out in each line. The flow of control with for loop, the condition is checked at the beginning, and the for part of the loop is built into the for loop. Have all the items in the sequence had their turn? No? Then you assign the next item to the loop variable and execute the loop body and repeat. If all the items in the sequence had their turn, then you exit the loop. This is same as the for part of every loop that I just mentioned earlier. It is very common to use the range function with the for loop. The range function, for example, for num in range 4, the range function has 3 different ways of using it. The most common way is using one parameter, range n. For example, range 4 here. In this case, you will get list of 0, 1, 2, and 3. You get the number from 0 all the way to n minus 1. So if I do range 4, n minus 1, n would be 4, n minus 1 would be 3. So you go from 0, 1, 2, and 3. If I do range 10, then I will have 0, 1, 2, 3, all the way to 9. I can have a 2 parameter. If we specify 2 parameter, then it is start and end. The starting point and the ending point. Again, it is not including the endpoint. So if I have, say, range 1, 3, then I will have 1 and 2, not including 3. The third range function is using 3 parameters, start, end, and stride. The stride can be negative value. For example, the stride is the amount of increment or decrement. For example, if I say range of, say, 1 to 10 with a stride of 2, then I will have 1, 3, 5, 7, and 9. Python while loop built on the 4 part of loop structure. Can you identify the 4 part of loop structure here? This is the initialization. Num equals 0 is the initialization. While num is less than 5, this is a condition. So num is 0 initially, 0 less than 5, yes, then you print num. This is your body. And num equal to num plus 1 is your update statement that you update the loop variable such that you will the num increment getting increment, and eventually num will be bigger than 5 or not less than 5, and the loop terminates. So let's look at a couple of programming exercises. Use a for loop to display iTag136 rocks 10 times, and use a while loop to display iTag136 rocks 10 times. So let's use a PyCharm here. And let me just say this is a loop. So I want to write a loop to display iTab 136 rocks. So for num in range 10, the range function very easy to use. If I want to do something 10 times, I do range 10, print iTab 136 rocks, and let's see if it works. You can see iTab 136 rock 10 times. And let's do the while loop. For while loop, we want to have an initialization. And while num less than 10, condition, I want to print iTab 136 rocks, and update the loop variable. So this is your body, and this is the update. And let's see if it works. And you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now what happened? Let me comment on this line. What happened if we forget the update statement? Let me run this. And you can see it run forever. It never stop. If you see something like this, you can click on the stop button here to stop the execution of the program. Let's look at another programming example. Write the function num between odd, start and end that uses for loop to display a list of odd number between start and end inclusive. Likewise, write a function called num between even, start and end that uses while loop to display the list of even number between start and end inclusive. So let's look at this from the PyCharm. Let's write another Python file, num between. So let's write a function called function definition num between odd, start, and end. Incremental development, since I was writing a few lines of code here, pass to make this a syntactically correct function but does nothing. So let's call num between odd. Let's do like a 1 and 9. And let's run this. No error. Great. So let's write our function then. Num between odd. I want to display all the odd number between start and end, including the end. How do I know it's an odd number? We call, if it's an odd number, like for example 3, if we divide by 2, the remainder is 1. So I will write a for loop for num in range start and this is the start and end that I want you to go. If num mod 2 equal to 1, then print num. Why using num mod 2, not start and end? Keep in mind, num will be going from start to end, where the start and end is a constant. It doesn't change. So first time through num will be start, second time through num will be start plus 1, increment by 1, third time through, num will be star plus 2, and so forth. So if num mod 2 equal to 1, I want to print that. So let's see if it works. 1, 3, 5, 7. I do 1 to 9, and I do want to show the end point. Why did not show the end point? Well, recall the range. When I do the range, you go from start to end, but does not include the end. So if I want to include the end, I need to add 1 to it to make it 1 higher. So let's see. Now, as you can see, it shows 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. So let's write our second function, num between even. And this would be using while loop. So using while loop, num equal to, is a num equal to 0? What should be the starting point? Well, the starting point should be the start parameter. And while num is less than or equal to n, so this is my condition. And if num mod 2 is equal to 0, that means this is an even number. Then I print the number. And don't forget, now, this is one thing I see a lot of students make mistake on when you have the indentation. Take a look at this indentation. What is wrong here? Num equal to num plus 1. This statement belongs to what? You have to take a closer look at the indentation. Line number 11 here, num equal to num plus 1, it belongs to the if statement. What this means is, I will only increment the num if the num is an even number. If not, the num will never get increment. But I don't want to do that. I want to increment the num regardless. So I need to untap this, and I also put a blank line. Usually you put a blank line in between the block of code, just so you can see the code a lot easier. So now the num, as you can see, num equal num plus 1, it belongs to the while loop. It has the same indentation as the if statement. That means this num get increment every time the while loop get executed. And I will change this to num between odd. Let me change it to even. So for this case here, I should see 2, 4, 6, and 8. Take a look at the indentation. This is one of the most common problems that students made. You have to unindent the code to line up where the body of the statement belongs to. This is something you have to pay attention to the code. Take a look at this and let me know if any question. Thank you.